All right. Hit okay. And Kim Walter has a hand raised. Kim, did you have a question? Maybe not. All right. So I have the pleasure of introducing you to Katerina Hencova. Katerina is a regular speaker at our boot camps, and she shares financial hacks, etc. She has two superpowers. One is salary negotiation, and the other is taxes, tax planning. And but today she's going to talk about salary negotiations, which is an amazing topic for everyone. And also, just whether you're negotiating a salary or something else, it's very important to have, kind of a intentional mindset and a strategic mindset. And Katerina is going to share all of that with you and help you, kind of understand what you can look for and what you can hope for, kind of, whatever wiggle room you have. So, Katerina, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Christy. Good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to be with you this morning and share this fun information. So I'll go ahead and share my slides. And welcome to salary negotiation. All right. So usually when I'm in full view, the scrolling gets a little iffy. So I think I'll just leave it the way it is. So who we are, Continuum Consulting Group, we are a financial planning firm and we focus on holistic financial planning. And our clientele consists primarily of professionals in transition and business owners, which is how I also met many of you. And we also have passion for helping and paying it forward, and which is why we build comprehensive financial plans for anyone who is in transition at no cost. So what are we here to talk about today is negotiation. And from experience and from speaking with many professionals, negotiation is something that they are kind of scared of, dread a little bit. And if we just break down what negotiation really is, it's simply a discussion aimed at reaching an agreement. And despite of that, even though it's just a discussion, it carries a very negative connotation. It kind of makes it sound like it's about arguing who gets more. It's really uncomfortable asking for more, and therefore people don't really love approaching negotiation. Now, there are so many different types of negotiation and how it can be approached: tactical, psychological, principled, competitive bargaining, and collaborative. And each of these types would be used just in a different type of negotiation, whether it's, let's say, hostage negotiation, a little too extreme, or let's say a settlement, or your simple sales. Competitive bargaining is what's usually used, let's say, when you're buying a car. The one that we're going to focus on today is the collaborative. So the collaborative type of negotiation is what I would say the most dynamic, the most evolved, and it actually requires some emotional intelligence, which is why it's also the most effective. So why do we need to negotiate? Well, for the most obvious reason, our base salary. We want to get paid more, right? But in addition to that, why is the base the most important to negotiate? So it definitely sets a base for any future raises that we may receive in the company, similar with bonuses and 401k match, because those are calculated by a percentage off of our base salary. So if you do a good job negotiating your base, you're making more, then your raises, bonuses will obviously be higher as well. And in many instances, when it comes to negotiating salary in the new or next job, we will position ourselves and ask for an amount based on what we were getting paid in the last job. And if we did not negotiate going into the last job and were perhaps getting paid less than market, then in the next job, we will probably negotiate for an amount that was market when we were entering that previous role. So if we do this continuously, we may be in each job kind of shorting ourselves, not doing a good job negotiating. And study has shown that if we do it over our entire career, so let's say we work for 35 years, we could be giving up around $2 million over the course of an entire career. And this is in base, stock, 401k matches, bonuses, and all the increases throughout our career. So $2 million is a really big chunk over one's lifetime. So don't make the mistake of not negotiating. And besides the monetary aspect, negotiating your compensation package also communicates that you are aware of your worth and value that you are bringing to the company. And from another study, people don't like people who do what they're told. And entering a company, just signing the offer, the way it was presented to us, we essentially would be doing just that. Being told, you know, sign on the dotted line. And that would create a specific view that you will now enter into the company and will be viewed while you're working there. Meanwhile, if you do negotiate upfront, it positions you as a leader and changes the view of how you are perceived and perhaps even the relationships that you have at work. And being viewed as a leader from the get-go, as you know, may even get you considered for special projects, initiatives, promotions, leading teams, which essentially leads to more visibility and more money. So it's not only due to the money that it's important to negotiate, it's also from the perspective of being viewed as a leader. So what is negotiable in the offer? It's obviously the base salary. And when people come to me with their offers, they usually only focus on the base. The base is definitely important. It's actually the #1 item that should be negotiated. But if that doesn't come in as we desire, nothing is lost. That's why the offer is called a package, compensation package, because there are several other components in the offer that can be improved and still achieve a desirable outcome. So, for example, if the base salary does not come in at the level that we either asked or desired, we can then negotiate the title and perhaps negotiate a higher title along with some sort of a plan on how we, over time, get the salary to match the title. So it's very common these days that someone has a title, but is performing tasks that are higher than the title. So let's say a director, but performing tasks of a senior director or even an executive director. So if that's negotiated upfront, that instead of a director, you have a higher title, let's say executive director, then you can also create a plan with your either hiring manager, boss, for over what period would your salary match the title of an executive director. So in your negotiation, you would also want to clearly lay out the frequency of your performance reviews, because these are the moments where you're getting to showcase and demonstrate how you're doing and growing and moving toward that higher title. And during these performance reviews is where you may get intermittent raises. So perhaps it's not a whole year that you're waiting to get your salary. Maybe it's increasing every quarter. Same with bonuses. Yeah, you can negotiate your bonuses, instead of being annual, perhaps every 6 months. And I've actually seen that more frequently these days. And there's also sign-on bonuses. People usually ask me, do those still exist? Does that still happen? And it will happen if you ask. In many instances where I had coached people entering a company, sign-on bonus was not available, first off, included in the offer, but they've paid it when the candidate asked about it. And same with promotions. If you are in front of your boss more frequently, getting to demonstrate what you are working on, how you're helping the team, the company, you may be considered for promotions because you're way more visible. You're right in front of your top of mind, describing and talking about how well you're performing. So do not discount the value of the performance reviews, and especially how often you can be in front of your superior. Michelle, is there a question?
I do have a question. You mentioned sign-on bonuses, and I definitely know that they're alive and well. But what do you think would be your angle if you've been out? They know that you've been unemployed for a while, and trying to negotiate a sign-on bonus. Like, what would that angle be? That you're interviewing with other companies, you want to be sure this is, even if you get an offer next week, you're not going to change your mind, or like, what would that angle be?
That's a really good question. And I've had at least 2 instances in which my client was actually asked why the reason for the sign-on bonus. And in one instance, they literally ask, what is it that you're leaving behind with your current company that requires a sign-on bonus? So there are several different things that you can say. Just because you are unemployed, it doesn't mean that you're not working and earning. You could be consulting, have your own clients, and by joining them, you are losing on some of that income. So that's one. And 2, if you are receiving other offers or feel comfortable saying that you are, and that a sign-on bonus is offered, you can definitely leverage that in getting a sign-on bonus. The other way sign-on bonus can be used is if the base salary doesn't meet what you want, and let's say the gap is wide, a sign-on bonus can help bridge that. So it's in year 1, right? The base salary may be lower in year 2, but between year 1 and 2, you have an opportunity through, let's say, the raises, promotions, stuff like that, to get up higher. But you are bridged at least for year 1 with the sign-on bonus. Does that make sense?
Thank you. That's very helpful.
My pleasure. So the other way that you can bridge a gap is any additional benefits. So, for example, supplemental coverage. This is an executive package that only certain roles from, let's say, VP and up have access to. So if, let's say, you're not at the VP level, you're an executive director, but you want access to the supplemental coverage because they're simply much richer benefits. There are benefits that you otherwise wouldn't have access to. And there is something in there that has value to you. Let's say it's long-term care coverage or higher benefits on long-term disability. These are some of the common things that you would find in an executive package that are not found otherwise. So if that has value to you, you may negotiate that you are included in that executive package, and now the door opens to a whole nother slew of benefits to you. You can also negotiate more equity. So this will depend on the size of the company and whether they have their equity clearly laid out. In most cases, when I was supporting people in their negotiation, they would come to me with a slight frustration that the company doesn't have a clear kind of system for who gets what, like how much equity people get. And that is actually a good thing. If they have, let's say, tables for it, and it's basically based on the role or the title, then there is not a whole lot of wiggle room. But if it's not organized, not clearly laid out, it's too ambiguous, that actually works in your favor, because it means that there is room to get more. So again, if the base salary doesn't come in, they've given you a sign-on bonus, but there's still a gap, try to get more through the equity plans, because that has value as well. Or retirement benefits or deferred comp. So Pacific Life has one of the best retirement benefits I have ever seen, maybe except for UCLA. And they, especially for their executives, besides matching their 401k, there is this additional account into which they simply deposit thousands of dollars of cash a month. So if you cannot get it on the base salary, try to get it through the retirement plan, because that has value as well. And with deferred comp, that may not put a whole lot of money in your pocket right away, but it will save you money on taxes. And I have seen companies that do put in percentage besides just allowing the employee put money in. So definitely inquire about that as well, especially if it has value to you. Irina, do you have a question?
I do, and maybe you're going to be getting to this because this has been super helpful as to what is negotiable. Will you be sharing like how do you like negotiate for additional equity, like what you would say and why, sort of similar to Michelle's earlier question, what's the reason that you're negotiating for additional equity and how you would do that? Is that coming?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, sorry. Thank you.
My pleasure. So additional things that you can negotiate are obviously paid vacation. That's another one that people really look at. And I would also not underestimate that. I had someone who was coming from a company where they worked for almost 10 years. So they had 3 weeks of vacation, going into another company that offered 1 week of vacation, or I think it was 4 and 2. So they had 4, going into a new company offering 2. And they couldn't meet her on more bonus or sign on. They've already given all that. And I think the salary was $250,000 a year, which if you break it down by a week, it's about $5,000 a week. And she really wanted 4 weeks of vacation. It was kind of a stretch to ask for 4 when they offered 2. So I simply said, just ask if they could meet you in the middle. And they did. And it didn't necessarily put money in her pocket, but it gave her, a week worth of $5,000 that she had to spend with her family. So the other one is childcare or remote work or flexible schedule. So anything that would perhaps help you create work-life balance. It doesn't necessarily increase your salary, but if it also has value to you because your time is valuable, certainly make an ask about that. If you are moving I have seen companies to pay escrow fees, commissions to realtors if the candidate or employee had to sell their home, and then they would also help them buy the house wherever they were moving at the new location. So I've even seen companies just write a check for moving expenses, and sometimes it's even more that it actually costs you to move. So definitely negotiate that. And if you have student loans, many companies have now come out with programs that helps with student loan balances. So if they have not met you on, let's say, the base salary, the sign-on bonus, here is an opportunity to perhaps get a little more. And tuition reimbursement or professional development. So as you know, that costs a lot of money. And if it is your desire to continue to grow and learn, this may be something you can make an ask about, especially if it's, let's say, hiring a executive coach for you while you work for them. A really good coach today is easily $12,000, $13,000, $15,000. So if the company can pay that for you, which this coach may actually even prep you for the next role where you would be making significantly more. So don't underestimate that as well, and definitely make an ask about that. Jennifer, do you have a question?
Yeah, so when you're dealing with larger organizations or public, I don't know if that's relevant or not, and they have, in their employee handbook, very stringent, like paid vacation policies, remote work policies, especially the paid vacation. Is it truly negotiable? Like if it's based on tenure, and just like you mentioned, spent 10 years in another company, 4 weeks, the new company is 2 weeks. Is it truly negotiable, even though like within the handbook, their policies are 2 weeks for the first 5 years?
Everything is negotiable.
I'm sorry?
Everything is negotiable.
Okay.
Nothing precludes you from asking. Whether they give it to you or not, that's a different story. But in my opinion, it is your responsibility to ask, because we don't get what we deserve. We get what we negotiate. So, they may say, hey, there is no wiggle room, but you had at least asked. And then it's your choice whether you want to take the job.
Right.
If you have other offers coming in, then you may wait and leverage that even. But you definitely can ask about anything.
Yeah,
You
for
can
sure. I
ask-
was just wondering if in your experience, do you find that most organizations are flexible beyond
So far, the people that I have coached, there's been flexibility
Okay.
in most cases. There maybe wasn't flexibility on some things, but definitely, yeah, we've created really wonderful packages in my experience.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure. Michelle, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. I'm an HR leader, so I know from experience that it is. And what I recommend is that if you are able to negotiate that, and they're probably already going to do this, but just make sure they put that on your offer letter, because you are outside of policy, to your point, right? But believe me, I've been on the receiving end of that and gotten it approved. I've also been one that negotiated it. It definitely is negotiable. Is it every single company? Maybe not, but I've seen many, many companies that do. It can't hurt to ask.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. If you don't ask, you already have a no, so you may as well just ask. So how do we start the negotiation, and how do we even know how much money to ask for? So I get this question all the time. People come to me and they say, well, I would like to make 300, but maybe I could take 250. I would even take 225. And now you're kind of all over the place, and you will be asked what your salary desire is. So you need to have a really clear answer. So what you want to do is research and identify a comparable job title in the area that you live, not in the area where you will be working, because it has to be based on the living expenses you will have when you work there, right? And you also want to consider any specialties or unique skills that you may have and kind of add that to the number. So once you've done your research, you should be able to find a salary range for that role in your area. And then within the range, you want to identify your target salary. Like basically, where do you want to be in that range? So one thing to remember is that when ranges are being stated, the employer is hearing the lower end of the range. Meanwhile, you're thinking, I want to receive the higher range, the higher end of the range. So knowing that, you may even have to index it up by 5, 10, 20,000, depending on what the range is. And then you want to reasonably place yourself somewhat within that range. So you would consider and factor in any cost of relocating or living. You want to also include any experience and previous achievements or even certifications that you may have that pertain to that role. And when you are setting your number, you want to pick a really odd number. And the reason for that is if you say $300,000, that number is too even, and it communicates that you can be talked down from that number. So if you pick an odd number, it not only communicates that you cannot be talked down from the number, but also that you have done your research, you really know your worth, and you know what the role goes for in the market. So you will be a lot less negotiated with if you come in with an odd number. Now, the last number can end in 0. It doesn't have to be an odd number at the end,
Can I
but
ask a
you
quick
want.
question?
Who is this?
It's Sarah. I'm so sorry. I don't see the hand raised, which is why I probably shouldn't ask a question. How do you, when you ask, so when you give a number, you say like, I'm looking for 211 or 311 or whatever. You say it that way. Can you just phrase it in a sentence? I'm just curious. Sorry.
Yeah, so like I said, the last number can be a 0, but you want to make it a little off the, let's say the 300. So like you said, 312,900. And it may, they may get a chuckle out of it. They may ask you how you came up with that. So you want to have an answer prepared and blame it really on the research. Based on the research I have done, or the research has shown that a role in this area with these specific requirements and job description goes for this number. I see a couple hands up. Who do we have? Alan and Rich.
Hey, Katerina, great presentation so far. The question is timed because you're talking about the salary ranges. So, and oftentimes, these are hiring within a specific range, but then they're also trying to hire within a certain percentile. They want to bring them in at the midpoint, 50% of this percentile, 70% of this. What is the best way to understand what their practices have been in the past?
Mm-hmm.
Because you just said they want to bring you in at the low end of the range and the candidate is thinking the high end of the range, but in the middle, they know that it's going to be at the 60 percentile range. How do you figure that out?
So you can also ask, what do you normally pay someone for this role? What have you historically paid someone in this role? And notice how I use what and how. So those are calibrated questions. They cannot be answered with yes or no. And what that achieves is that it opens up the conversation and it allows you to derive more information. So I bet you they've never been asked what they have paid previously or what they normally pay. So it opens up the conversation, you'll get more information and be able to kind of gauge where they're trying to place you. And the other thing I was gonna say is, you know, companies have, like you said, they have these tables and percentiles and they're trying to place someone. They don't always really keep, you know, the finger on the pulse for what the market really is. And in a negotiation, if you can enlighten them, really educate them on what has been happening in the market, you will also be perceived as, you know, knowledgeable, like someone who really knows. And if it's done in a friendly, empathetic way, it's going to develop a rapport for you with them, and it'll be easier for you to get the number that you really desire through these conversations. These conversations are a little tough, but if approached the right way, it can really yield a beautiful result.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Rich?
Katerina, I don't know if you're going to touch upon this, but there have been a number of states and locales that have required posting a range for a position. And then also, I know California, if you ask for what is the budgeted range, they're supposed to give you a range if it has a budget.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for adding that. Yeah, and some states, in having to meet that, employers state really wide, unreasonable ranges as well. So know that, still do your research and know what the market for the role is, so you can be prepared for the conversation. So now that you have identified your target salary, you also want to get a sense for the benefits. As I talked about, they have monetary value as well. And you want to figure out which ones are the most important to you, because those will be the ones that you will be asking for, especially if the kind of the top priorities didn't come in, like the base and bonus and equity. You also want to have a list of any additional items that are important to you, that you desire, that you will ask about if the higher priorities will not come in. People usually ask me, you know, how many things in this offer can I negotiate? And I would say 3 to 5, no more than that. You can negotiate additional ones if some of the three to 5 did not get met, if that makes sense. Larry, do you have a question?
Just a quick follow-up, if you can hear me. So if they ask, what are you looking for in base, do you say what the range is in the area, or do you ask them what's the range that you've budgeted? I'm in California.
Yeah, great question. So I'm assuming that they're asking you
How much are you looking for? Yeah, what are you looking for base salary?
So number one, you really want to kind of deflect the question till the end, and when they have absolutely fallen in love with you and want you in the company. And you want to state what the research has shown, because you never want to make it about you. You don't want to make it personal. If you can kind of remove that away from you, it's also going to help you negotiate, because we actually negotiate better on someone else's behalf than our own. So if you just blame it on the research, you know, research has shown that in this area the range is, or the salary is, or you know, the market for the role is, I would just use the research as your evidence. Dan, do you have a question?
Actually, I have a statement. This is all excellent, Katerina, but You know, I was offered an excellent salary at a company called Irvine Sensors. The problem was I didn't do enough research on their financial stability. So now I'm in a lawsuit with 10 other ex-employees to try and get our back pay that we never got paid. So
Wow.
especially in these current times with inflation and everything else that's going on, make sure that you investigate the company and that they're stable.
Thank you for that, Dan.
Okay.
All right, so now how do we set the strategy to negotiate?
Hey,
So you can
Katerina?
have, yes,
Hey, it's Karen. How are you?
hi.
Good. One of the other things to keep in mind is the number of companies that are trying to pull this. Oh, it's unlimited vacation. You know, you can use it when you need it. That is not always as good as it sounds. A lot of us on here have been around for a while. So if it's going to be that kind of an offer, then I think, you know, we need to also remember to negotiate up front what would be the severance package down the road. We got to figure out when to bring that up, obviously. But,
Mhm.
you know, if it doesn't work out, to Dan's point, and all of a sudden you're gone, there is no payout of the leftover vacation days because it was unlimited PTO as a way to keep that off their books.
Thank you for that, Karen. That's a really good point. Yeah, and we've been seeing that more often than not these days. So setting a strategy, and this is something you can actually already weave into the interview process when you are communicating your value and skills and experience and how basically you can match the employer's needs. So you want to do that through stories because that's what makes you more memorable. It also elicits an emotion in the person that you're negotiating with, and they will be more likely to help you and get you the number that you desire. And asking questions is actually really important because it demonstrates that you do have knowledge, whether it's the industry or the specific subject. I was supporting someone in the pharmaceutical industry, and there were some big legislative changes that were impacting the whole industry. And in the company that my candidate was negotiating with, she was asking how the company is moving through these changes and the challenges, and it kind of positioned her as very knowledgeable. And when you are communicating, let's say your desired salary, your value, you want to pay attention to how your voice is inflecting, whether it's up or down. When we're inflecting up, it communicates that we're asking a question. And when we're inflecting down, it sounds like a statement. And women, actually, when we speak, we inflect up almost every time. So we may be perceived as we're not sure, we're guessing, because it sounds like we're asking a question when we're not. So specifically, when you are stating your desired salary, let's say, you know, I want 224,000. So I would say research has shown that this role in this area goes for $224,000. So I inflected down, so it's understood that I'm not asking a question, but if we say 224,000, that's, you know, it could be perceived as we're guessing what we want in terms of a salary. So keep an eye on that. You want to remain positive and flexible throughout the conversation, because if you smile more, especially, you are perceived as very confident. And you want to be very confident in this negotiation. You want to seem like you have done it a millions of times, so you can not be, you know, talked down or negotiated with too much. And you also want to put the other person in a good mood. And here's another study that showed that when people are in a good mood, their brain capacity goes up by 31%. So that's a third of our capacity. And if you're negotiating with someone who's in a good mood, you know, they now like you and they're also smarter. So of course, they're going to help you and get you the money that you want. And you want to treat the negotiation as really a conversation with a friend, not a confrontation. So the questions you want to ask should start with words what, where, how, when, who, and for why you may want to use for what purpose. Why seems a little invasive, but for what purpose is a softer way to ask that. And you can use these calibrated questions to literally ask what is available in the compensation package that, you know, that could be given to you. How they have done it in the past, what do they usually pay, what is the standard, what else is possible, or what else is available. So start practicing these calibrated questions in your normal conversations, and then it will become natural in a negotiation. And you never want to share anything personal or overshare for why you need that specific pay. You want to get a little personal to develop rapport, but to not necessarily share a personal, anything from like personal life. So what I mean by you want to get personal, you want to elicit emotion from them, right? Because you want to get them in a good mood. You want to create a rapport as if you're friends. So kind of get them on a personal level, but do not share anything personal from your life. That could actually kind of hurt you. And I had one of my clients ask me whether she should tell them that she's a single mom, and which is why she needs the money. So that's an absolute no. You're here to do a professional job. They're doing a professional job, so keep it professional. In your negotiation, you will get reservations and questions. So a perfect example was with the sign-on bonus. The question, you know, why they need it, what are they leaving behind, what are they losing, which would justify a need for a sign-on bonus. So practice your responses, be prepared for that. And you want to practice the responses out loud, because sometimes these questions can kind of catch us off guard. So we want to have our response practice so it comes out smoothly. And if you need more time, if you've been asked a question and you don't have the answer prepared, you can buy yourself more time by mirroring back. Mirroring is repeating the last 3 to 4 words that they said. So you just repeat it and it gives you an extra few seconds to prepare your answer. They will not know what you're doing. What they will perceive is that you're a really good listener, that they're being heard. So don't be afraid to mirror back. And it's something that you may actually start practicing in your normal conversations as well. You want to learn everything you possibly can about the company, salary structure, and benefits, so you get a sense for what's available. And then again, ask in calibrated way the questions for what else can be offered. I briefly mentioned that the salary discussion should be left for the end. And the reason for that is that you want to have an offer in hand. Really, the negotiation doesn't start until an offer has been extended to you. Will you be asked about your desired salary? Absolutely. In those instances, it's good to just state the range that the research has shown. And I have a few examples also on how you can deflect it till the end. You want to re-emphasize your value throughout the negotiation and how you're a great fit for the job. Just keep reminding them. So have more stories queued up in how you have solved problems in the past in other companies. You may also want to share something you have noticed with their company. It's going to show them that you care and that you want to help. So you may even share that you noticed a challenge, ask them how they are meeting through it, and offer perhaps a story, how you have experience with this, how you've come across this, how you have solved it in the past. So here's an example of deflecting. If you have already shared a number and then received an offer, and let's say it was too low, you can say, now that I've learned more about this position and job requirements, my salary desire has changed. If they have asked you and you want to simply deflect, you can say, I'd like to learn more about the role and how I can help the company before we discuss the right level of compensation. Or before we discuss the salary, I'd really like to determine whether I'm a good fit for the company, culture first. This is a good one because it shows that you're not in it just for the money. You really want to be a good part of the team. And you can use a calibrated question to ask, what do you usually pay someone in this position? Or what have you historically paid someone in this position? You can also take a screenshot of this. There are a few examples. If you feel gutsy, you can certainly say, I'd rather talk about that offer after you've made me a job offer. Like I said, in most instances, if you don't share, they may not kind of even continue. So you may need to share something. The range is best in that instance. So how do we practice our negotiation? So the best is with someone in realistic situations, or in front of a mirror if you don't have a partner to practice with. You want to write out the calibrated questions and the persuasive answers and really practice them out loud. Do not just think what you'll say, really say it out loud, because it needs to sound like you've said it 1,000 times, that you are just so super ultra comfortable in it. And pay attention to the up and down inflection. And you can even record yourself if it's helpful. And I find that really helpful. Years ago, I was really afraid of public speaking. There is no way that I could have given a talk to you today if I didn't do this. But I was on a board of a nonprofit and I had to give a lot of speeches at fundraisers. So I would practice my speech recording myself, and I would pay attention to how I sound, how I look, whether I pace a lot back and forth, how I'm using my hands when I talk. And I just kept redoing it until I got it to a comfortable level where it got delivered very smoothly. So if you practice this and then really perform at your negotiation, it will be really hard to not give you your desired compensation. Here are some resources on where you can benchmark salaries. I think most of you know PayScale, Salary. LinkedIn will sometimes have information, Glassdoor, and Levels FYI. It started off as for tech industry, and I think it's now evolving into other roles as well. And if you're wanting to read up on some stuff, Never Split the Difference by Christopher Voss is a really good book. He's a former FBI hostage negotiator. Pay Up is by Kate Dixon, and Ask for It and Women Don't Ask by Linda Babcock and Sarah Lashever. So women actually need this help more than men. It's about only 1/3 of female candidates that negotiate their salary versus 2/3 of male candidates that will negotiate. So this is all I have for you in terms of information. We do have an offer for you. It's a complimentary review of a job offer. So if you get a job offer, want to do a review, feel free to reach out to me. for a consultation. And I think we have a few minutes on the clock, so I'm happy to answer any questions if we have any. Amber, Christy?
Anybody have questions? Katerina, always you give us such great information. And we had a lot of questions going on during the session. So please raise your hand. Feel free to just
I
chime.
have a question. My name is Srisha Rao.
Hi,
My
Srisha.
question, hi, Katerina, is about the HR person that we speak with normally. His role is to confirm that you're within the salary range, and in order to move through the interview process, like you mentioned in your presentation, you don't talk about the salary or any of that until you have an offer. So when you approach somebody with a request for more than what the range is, whether it's base pay or any of the stated salary, the job compensation, what is your rationale for saying, on the one hand, you said you're within the pay range, and then when you've gotten the offer, you're now balking at that offer and saying, I want more?
So I would really go based on the research.
Okay.
Are you asking for more that's outside of really what the market is? Because if it isn't, you can easily use that as substantiation for your ask. And the other thing is, if it's been found or revealed during the interview that there are, jobs or requirements above, that's a really good reason for more as well. Because in some
Okay.
instances, it may actually change the title completely. It's not out of the ordinary that you're applying for, let's say, a director, but you're doing a job of a VP these days. So you want to mention that as well, and therefore the salary needs to match the job description, not the title per se.
Got it. And there's a situation currently that I'm going through where the VP is trying to decide what role would be the right fit for me, the director or a senior director type of role. That gives me more wiggle room to negotiate. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yeah. Ambiguity always. That's
Okay.
gonna, yeah. If they're creating a role for you, that is actually like the best. You can name everything in those
Got it.
instances. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
I may take you up on your
Sounds
offer.
great.
Thank you.
All right. So we have
This is a
Tim
great
and Alex.
presentation.
I think I heard my name there.
Yes.
Yeah, so in the chat, I included a script that I've been using that I picked up through an executive coaching program on the response to the salary question. And basically, this is I've already gotten them to state what their range is. I live in California, right? So they have to give it to me. But yeah, and I just respond yes, that, and I hit the high end of the range. Let's say it's 230. Yes, $230,000 is within my range. It fits my expectations for this role, but salary is only part of the package. And then I go on, right? But I included the whole response there in the chat if people want to pick it up. But I've used it twice now. It's kind of a positive communication style that's in that response. So it's not standoffish, and so far pretty well received. So waiting on my first offer though. So
Thank you for that, Tim. Yeah, I hope
Yes.
you call me when you get your offer. I'd love to support you in that.
yes, we'll do.
We are at
Alex?
9 o'clock. If somebody's got a quick question, because I know people are having to exit and we do also.
Yeah, I just had a quick one. What are you seeing for like timelines? I know you mentioned that kind of the process, but how fast are interview to offer and offer negotiation? How long are they lasting?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I like to drag it out because that actually works in your favor if it goes longer, right? You want them to want to speed up the process, not you. I've had things wrap up within a week, and I've also had things go for 3 weeks. So I think they would like to be done perhaps within a week. Also depends on your start date. Now, if they want to move fast, that means more money for you. If you want to move fast, that means less money for you.
Katerina, thank you so much. I'm sorry we have to end. I know there's more questions. Please, those of you with questions, reach out to Katerina. She's kindly provided all of her contact information, and she is a wealth of knowledge. And I so agree, as we counsel with our individuals, that we're placing total agreement with everything you say. It's just amazing what you can negotiate. There's always something on the table.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have
Thank
a
you,
wonderful
everyone.
morning.
Enjoy your weekends.